Hi, this is Julie Hartel. I'm just making this video because I wanted to share a story about me. Well, lots of you on Facebook will know me in different guises. So I have been in various office jobs. I've been a building surveyor, I've been a property surveyor, I've been a facilities manager, I've been a marketing manager, a TA in a school. I've done lots and lots of different things in lots of different industries. But I just wanted to talk about, selfishly, a little bit about me and why I'm doing the things that I want to do now for me. I have to go back a few years. So I was in a full-time corporate office job, no children. I'm happily married, and I always said I'd never have kids because I wanted to be selfish and travel. But when I met my husband Jerry, that all changed, and we decided to have a baby. And really, really quickly that happened, and our beautiful little daughter Drew came along, and it seemed like motherhood was really easy, that she slept, she was happy, she was great. And I couldn't understand why the things that I read on the internet about struggling mums was even a thing. I was like, wow, this is so easy. What the hell are they on about? It's madness. So we decided to do it again. So we created another little baby, a bundle of joy, and along came Harriet. So there was 21 months apart between Drew and Harriet. And Harriet, our little redhead temptress, didn't sleep. She was nothing like Drew. She didn't sleep. She wasn't happy. She always wanted me. She was always hungry. She had reflux, so was in and out of hospital as well with bronchiolitis. She was a very, very needy baby. There were days where I didn't even bother to get her changed out of what she was wearing the day before, because it was just getting sick all over it. And there were days where I just didn't bother going out because I knew that if I took her out, she wouldn't sleep. And all the other friends that I had who had babies, they would sleep in the prams or the buggies, and my child would just scream. So I'd go to soft play, she would scream and she would puke and she wouldn't feed, and I'd be there smiling going, I'm okay, I'm okay. And actually inside I was dying. So as time went on, life got a bit harder. And my struggles with Harriet got worse, and I felt like it was rubbing off on Drew because I was getting angrier inside. So my emotions would go from 0 to 60 in just a click of a finger. And so I'd become, well, I thought I really wanted to be cool mum. I wanted to be the cool mum that everybody would love, and they'd be great. My door would always be open, and I could feel that I was becoming angry mum to Drew as well. And my feelings towards Harriet were becoming negative. And I'm shaking just thinking about it. There was one time where I felt that I wasn't the right person to have Harriet. I wasn't the person that could look after such a baby, and I just couldn't do it. And so I felt like giving up, and I took Harriet to what they used to call the short start centres. I can't remember if they're still there now. You'll have to tell me, but I walked her in the pram to the short start centre, took her out of the buggy and handed her to one of the community midwives and said, I can't do this, you're going to have to take her. And tried to physically hand Harriet over to the community midwife. They were really, really good and gave me lots of advice and tried to smooth me over, but it wasn't enough. I knew they were just trying to make me feel better about myself. It wasn't enough, and I left there with Harriet with no more help that I thought that they thought they were giving me help. But inside I was thinking, I'll just say yes, and I'll go home and start the same damn day over again, feeling like shit, basically. So I'm quite a black and white person, so I felt there's something wrong with me or there's something wrong with the baby. And I went down the route of there's something wrong with Harriet. So there's the reason why she's not happy and why she is the way she is. And I looked online at loads of information, and then I bought a book called The Magic Sleep Fairy. Some of you might already know this. Or have the book. I didn't bloody read the book though. I couldn't be bothered. I thought I didn't have the time. I was tired. I was exhausted. And I just wanted to know how this person who wrote the book got the baby to sleep. So I just looked at the back of the book, saw the number for the author and just rang her. So I rang Alison Scott Wright and spoke to her directly and said, you know, I have this problem. I just poured out my heart to her. And she said, have you got my book? And I said, yeah, I've got it. I called you from the number on the back. She said, well, have you read it? And I was like, no, I'm ringing you. I just want you to tell me how to do it. And she said, well, you need to read the book. And then if that hasn't worked, then ring me. It was not what I wanted to hear at all. I just wanted someone to tell me how to make my baby sleep and be happy, and for me to feel better about my relationship with my baby. And I felt like she just dropped me right back in it. So I put the phone down, and in the moments in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, I read the book, and it was a quite easy read for me. I started to think about how I could put into action the steps that Alison Scott Wright mentioned in her book. And I put those steps into action, and it worked. After 3 days, 3 nights of me sleeping downstairs and Harriet sleeping downstairs, and the reason we slept downstairs is because she was so freaking loud, she would wake everyone else in the house. So we slept downstairs, and I followed the steps, and it worked. And I got her to go to sleep and to not to need me in the nighttime. Throughout that, though, it made me feel exhausted, and my negativity towards my second child didn't really go away. And so in time, I went back to work, which was full time. It was a corporate office job. And so we were then juggling this needy child who was sleeping better, but I still didn't feel close to. I had Drew, who was starting school. And then there was my husband. Okay, so that's Jerry. And so I still felt like something wasn't right. Yes, she was sleeping well, but I didn't feel like I was doing a brilliant job. And I would commute to work in, an hour and panic in the car because I knew I was going to be late. And I thought that everyone in the office would think, oh, she's late because she's got babies and she's not coping. And they weren't thinking that, but in my head, that's what I thought they were thinking. Okay, I imagined all these things that they thought about me failing, that I wasn't meeting deadlines at work because I was a mum and I wasn't doing well, or my brain wasn't on my work because of that. But actually, I went to work to have a break from motherhood. That's why I wanted to keep it going. That was my intention. That was my goal. But the whole time I was in work, aside from the fact that my job was not fulfilling at all, I'd be concentrating on the time that I needed to leave to get back in time, to get to the school, to pick someone up from nursery. You're constantly looking at the clock, thinking, am I going to beat the clock? So I was feeling like I was chasing my tail daily. The whole day would be repeated and repeated and repeated. I'd look forward to the weekend, but I didn't know why, because the weekend would mean I'd be with my children solidly. And at that time in my life, it wasn't what I looked forward to. So I just felt like, although I was pushing myself at work and I wanted to succeed, which I've always done, I've always wanted to be really good at work. At work, I was feeling undervalued. I didn't think that all my skills were being utilised. There was no one there that would listen to me. I didn't have any influence. And I don't know whether that's to do with being a female or being a mum. I'm not going to go down that road, but it was a very male orientated office, and I don't think that I was taken seriously enough. So I'm feeling like shit about my job, and then I would turn up and leave the office feeling unorganised. So at the same time of this going on, my husband was working full time in the same kind of property industry. And we just were like ships passing in the night. I describe it as like actually being lodgers in our own house. And I knew I was not being nice to him, and I didn't know why. I would see him, I would tell him he hadn't done something, I'd tell him that he hadn't picked something up, I would look at the dishwasher and it'd not go on, and I'd blame him for that. I'd see the washing up and the laundry not done, and I'd blame him for that. If the dishwasher didn't work, I'd blame him for that. If the doorbell went and I didn't know who was going to be there and I didn't expect anyone to come, I would blame my husband for that. If the kids started screaming, I would blame him for that. So I'm trying to get you to understand that there was this feeling in the house that although we were lodgers, we weren't friendly lodgers. It was like I was living with someone I really didn't want to live with, and I felt like that he wasn't helping at all, even with the kids. So with all that going on, I also felt like that I wanted to have a break from the kids, and I couldn't see a way of making that happen. And my husband wasn't making me feel special. In my mind, he wasn't making me feel special. He wasn't even listening, but actually I wasn't talking. And I felt like he wasn't understanding me, but I didn't actually stop to explain to him. And I didn't feel like he was helping in any way, shape or form. But that was because I never asked for help. Now I can see that now. Now that I look back, I can see I didn't say what was going on in my mind. I didn't talk. I didn't ask for help because I didn't know what was going on. And there was a day where we took our kids to Devon and we went to Creeley, the adventure park. And we had an argument in the car park. And I got out and took Drew, I remember this vividly, and said, I can't do this anymore. I don't love you. I don't want to be with you. And I don't want Harriet. And I want you to take Harriet away. You can have Harriet and I'll have Drew, and everything will be fine and we'll just be civil. And I can't even remember what he said to me. I just remember feeling like I didn't want to listen to what he had to say. I just wanted him to stop the repetitiveness in my day. I wanted to feel more special, and I felt like that he was getting in my way of that, and so was Harriet. And if I ejected them from my life, that I would be better. At that time, I didn't realise how unhappy I really was. I was absolutely physically and mentally exhausted. I could only think ahead one day at a time, not even to the end of the day. My day thinking ahead would be, what bottles do I need to warm up? What food do I need to mash up? What will I eat this evening? Sometimes I didn't eat because I was just too tired to create anything for myself. And I just felt like that I had lost me. So I couldn't ever actually admit that there was something going on with me. So it was continually blaming him. But as a result of that day in Creeley, for some reason we didn't even go into Creeley. We'd driven all that way and we didn't go in. And we got back in the car and we drove home. And we decided to have couples counselling, which I'm really honest and I'd like to talk about, because there may be lots of others, of other parents and other couples going through similar things and haven't reached out. But we did decide to go to couples counselling, and I went there all full of it with a massive chip on my shoulder thinking, well, this is going to be interesting because they're going to pick up that he's a shit husband and I'm an amazing mother, despite the fact that I'm not having a great relationship with my youngest. I didn't want to tell them about that. So I didn't give my all to the counselling. I wasn't true yet. I went in there and was true about our relationship. And as a result, and over time, what came out of that was that it wasn't just him, it was me as well. And that took a lot to take in, really, that there'd be actually something wrong with the way that I was being. And actually, it wasn't just my husband being crap. It was, and in fact, it wasn't him being crap. It was me not talking to him. And communication was a massive thing for us that we learned through couples counselling. However, I was still suffering inside with this feeling that I was unfulfilled and I was a shit mum and that I wasn't being valued. I was a shit friend. I wasn't interested in other people's problems at the time, and I was very insular. But when you saw me outside, because I'm a naturally bubbly person, I was able to put on a mask and have that persona and be like, hey, how you doing? Everything's great. But actually inside, everything was crumbling away and eating me up inside. And there was a day I remember that my husband flew off to Edinburgh, which he did every now and again for work. And I was at home at the time and I was left with the children, and I felt really alone and that I couldn't cope, that I couldn't do what I needed to do, and I just thought that I just need to down my tools. I just need to ring someone. And so against what I felt inside, I rang my mum, and I rang my mum, and she came from Devon up to me within a couple of hours and just sat with me. And because on the phone I just cried, and I didn't know why I was crying. I didn't know why I was crying, couldn't explain it. And she told me that we needed to go to the doctors. So as much as I thought, great, I'm going to get some tablets that are going to sort me out, I went to the doctors, and I didn't talk for a long time at the doctors, and I just cried. And the doctor was amazing. She was really, really good. And she said to me, I'm really glad you came, because you reached out for help, and that was something I hadn't done, and it had been nearly 2 years living like this, feeling unfulfilled and pissed off, and she was just really happy, and I was happy that she was listening to me, as somebody was listening to me at last. So she didn't use the words postnatal depression. She didn't say, this is what you've got, but she said the words anxiety and depression, and she brought out of me how I was feeling about my children, and more so about Harriet. And as a result of that, sorry for getting emotional. As a result of that, I was prescribed antidepressants, and sometimes they can be good and sometimes they can be bad. I was clearly told about the side effects of these, and I was told that they would take a long time to take effect, but I was willing to try anything to feel like me again and to be happy, because I was tired of not being happy. So I took the antidepressants, and yes, they took ages and they did work, but the negative knock-on effect of taking the antidepressants was it made me care less about my husband. It made me care less about the things I was worried about before. So yeah, it numbed all of those feelings. I didn't care about the dishwasher anymore. I didn't even care about filling it. I didn't care about the washing up or the laundry. I just didn't do it. I stopped doing everything and caring about everyone and everything. So as a result of this, I was signed off sick, so stopped going to work, and the doctor advised me that I needed to look at making some changes in my life. And so that's what I did. The first thing I looked at was what I was doing as a job. I knew that that wasn't what I wanted to do in life. I've had lots of jobs where I felt unfulfilled. I've been fired from jobs. I've resigned from so many because I got to a point where I achieved. I'd been challenged because I love being challenged. I got to the point where I thought, yeah, I'm doing this now. What's next? So I would leave a job and go to a next one. And in this job, there was no way for me to make any influence on anything. There was no way for me to move up or forward or have a positive influence. So I looked at how I could change my job that would allow me, or find a job that would allow me to have my kids, pick them up from school and nursery, and earn enough money that would keep me happy and keep the bills at bay. So I did a really good exercise to have a look around what I could do. And I know there's lots of you out there who struggle doing really physical jobs such as cleaning. And I've done that. I've even tried having my own cleaning company and ironing and things like that. But I just felt it wouldn't have made enough money. And yes, Jerry was earning good money. He earns good money. But I wanted me to be self-sufficient. I didn't want to have to depend on him. I wanted to prove to myself that I could bring in the money and pay the bills. Despite the fact that we had a joint account and joint bills, I hated the fact that I was dependent on someone else. So I looked for a job that I felt that was rewarding, fulfilling, and reignite my soul and my desire to succeed. And I wanted a passion back in my heart that would allow me to help others. And I wanted to make a positive difference, and I wanted to get me back, more importantly. So I became a teaching assistant, and that is something that I found really, really rewarding. But on the back of that, I found that I was surrounded by people who had been on the same journey that I had, and I could see it, I could hear it. They weren't reaching out and specifically saying, I have depression, or I have anxiety, or I am suffering from postnatal depression. But there were little pinches of it there. There were people that were in the playground saying how much they hated their job. They weren't fulfilled. They weren't talking to their husbands, and they just didn't have that love or desire to succeed. And so I decided to set something up to help other mums who are just like me, just normal, ordinary mums. And I mean, being a mum, right, they say, is the best job in the world. But it can be bloody hard, right? And frustrating and exhausting. And it's filled with never-ending feelings of, am I doing this right? Why does that person over there in the playground look flipping happy? And why is she so organised? How does she get there so early? Why does she remember the PE kit? How did she remember that today was the day we were supposed to bring a pound in and dress like a superhero? Why can't I be more like her? Why do I get so angry with my kids? Why can't I keep my emotions in check? Why doesn't my husband understand me? Why am I failing at this? I wish I could change my life and be happier. Why can't I get out of bed and look forward to my day? It is a hard job being a mum, but you have to do things for you. And that is what I have learned. And there's a saying about getting your oxygen mask on before helping others. And that analogy is so true. You have to, as a mother, you have to help yourself before you can help your family or your friends or other people. So I am now so happy. My husband and I are happy. We talk to each other. We have a great line of communication. We have simple little flag systems if we're not feeling right and we want attention, or we're not feeling special, or I'm not making him feel special, he will tell me. And as a side thing, and really it's not my story, it's his, but as a knock-on effect from what I went through, Jerry went through the same thing. And it affected him deeply too, but that's his story. So if you're watching this and you want help, and you don't know how to reach out, and you don't know who to speak to, and you feel like you're failing, or if you feel like that if you reach out that it will be looking like you're a failure, just stop feeling like that. Find your damn oxygen mask. Put it on, because you're not alone. Just reach out. And now I run a private Facebook group, and it's a safe place for mums where we help each other to fight off fears, fight off our fear of failure, fight off our anxieties, our self-esteem, and the confidence issues, where we can just talk confidently and privately. And if you want to look at making a positive change, and you want to be part of this growing group of almighty mothers, then just message me below, and you can come in the group and you can talk safely, privately, and we can help each other to feel great about the day, and to feel great about your relationship, and to feel great about you, because you are awesome. You're doing an amazing job, and I think you're great. So if you take anything from this, just know that you are a badass mother, and I am here for you.